the world's biggest nuclear bomb landed in New York City, the 50-megaton explosion would instantly vaporize everything within a 2-mile radius. The blast wave would flatten buildings up to 20 miles away, turning skyscrapers into rubble, and a fireball over 5 miles wide would ignite everything in its path. The shock wave would shatter windows as far as New Jersey, and the mushroom cloud would rise 40 miles into the air. Radiation would contaminate the area for decades,
Now, would I sleep in Florida or not?
leaving no survivors. If you put your finger in the barrel of a gun, some people think it would stop the bullet and make the barrel
But who thinks that though?
explode. But that's not completely true. Doing this would easily shatter your finger as the bullet continued on. Now, if the gun has an incredibly weakened barrel, your finger might be able to plug it enough to trap the expanding gases. The old barrel wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure and could explode, but the bullet would still most likely break your finger.
What the fuck is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is when your dumbass throat collapses like a folding chair the second you fall asleep. While you're awake, your throat muscles hold the piece of shit airway open. But when you fall asleep, the throat muscles pass out too, letting that shit close up tighter than your ex's fucking heart. Air barely squeezes through, making your soft palate vibrate like a dying lawnmower. That's snoring. But for some unlucky fucks, it closes completely, cutting off your damn air like it's trying to kill you in your sleep. Your brain goes, "What the fuck?" panics, and wakes you up just long enough to stop dying. Then you do it all over again, every damn night. That's obstructive sleep apnea. Fixes include slicing or blasting the floppy throat bits, or opening your airway so you can finally get some goddamn rest. Follow Dr. Pickle for more about your broken ass body.
Chat, I don't have that. You guys, I did a sleep study and said that my airways are perfect.
If you shot a turtle shell with a .22 caliber bullet, you might think it would go right through. But they're made of hard scales and bone, and if you shot it at just the right angle, it could actually deflect the round. Now, a 9mm bullet is much more powerful and would easily pierce right through one shell. But if you stacked 10 shells together, they would actually be strong enough to stop it. And for a high caliber bullet, you'd need a dumbass kid in Siberia swallowed 31 magnetic beads. Sounds insane, right? But wait till you hear how doctors saved his ass. This kid swallowed 31 magnetic toy beads. They started moving through his stomach and intestines, sticking together and causing some serious shit. If they linked up inside, they could tear through his organs and cause deadly infections like sepsis. Instead of cutting him open, doctors used a camera tube with a magnet to pull the beads out one by one. It worked, and the dumbass survived. Now imagine your car sinking underwater. Most people try to open the door, but that's the dumbest shit you could do. Here's what you really need to do. First, roll your windows down fast before the water messes with the electronics. If they won't budge, grab something sharp and smash the damn glass. And if you don't have any tools, wait for the car to fill up completely. Once the pressure inside matches the outside, you can open the door way easier, dumbass. They shot the dog walker in the chest so they could steal the dogs and demand a ransom. You see, these dogs actually belonged to Lady Gaga, but instead of paying, she offered $500,000 to anyone who returned them. A few days later, a woman turned them in, claiming she found them tied to a pole. But police got suspicious and discovered she was actually...
Maz, go get him.
I've got to say, but minus...
Don't know, chill out a minute. Maz, go scroll in the chat, go see who it is, but you've been in permanently.
The cannonball hit his leg, tearing apart the skin and bone below his knee. Surgeons had to cut off what remained, and his soldiers carried him to safety. But instead of throwing the damaged leg away, he ordered it to be buried with full military honors. Soldiers placed it in a coffin and held a funeral, treating it like a fallen hero. Years later, the man rose to power, and rioters tore his decomposed leg from the ground and dragged it through the streets.
Okay, what?
If you dropped a nuke into an active volcano, it would most likely just melt before it could detonate. But if the nuke was transported into the magma chamber and timed just right, the intense explosion could vaporize the lava, turning it into a superheated gas. This lava vapor would rapidly expand, causing an enormous pressure wave. Jumped from a 50-story building. You might think bubble wrap could save you. That's because bubble wrap compresses under impact. But you would need a mattress over 7 feet thick, enough to slow your fall gradually.
Who would think
and spread
that?
the force
Nobody
over
thinks
a
that.
large area. And if you wrapped yourself in bubble wrap, you'd need over 15,000 layers. This would create a suit nearly 500 feet thick to absorb the same force. If you jumped from a 50
that seems inaccurate.
If you shot a bullet at a nuclear bomb, most people think it would cause it to explode, but that's not exactly what would happen. You see, an atomic bomb can only detonate when the atoms inside split in half, which then triggers a chain reaction that causes it to explode. This means that a bullet would basically do nothing.
If you completely stopped brushing your hair, as it grew over time, it would naturally tangle.
Dude, I thought you couldn't recycle rubber.
Now, these wouldn't be simple tangles that are easily brushed out. Instead, they would turn into a densely
xQcOW
knotted up
from
clump
Laval
of hair.
Phoenix.
Gradually, these clumps would intertwine with themselves until they eventually compacted into a dreadlock. Left unattended, these locks will continue to grow, with some even being over 10 feet long. If you drilled a hole all the way through the Earth and then accidentally fell in it, you would fall towards the Earth's core. As you passed the
never
core,
happened to one.
gravity would...
Yeah.
If you drilled a hole all the way through the Earth and then accidentally fell in it, you would fall towards the Earth's core. As you passed the core, gravity would... When you overeat, your stomach has to stretch to accommodate the extra food. And if the expansion is rapid and extreme, the pressure inside it increases significantly. If you keep eating more and more, like an unnatural amount of food, the pressure could become too great, and there's a small chance it could actually cause the stomach wall to tear open. This rupture leads to the contents of your stomach spilling into the abdominal cavity, which can cause severe pain and infection. If you drank 70 cups of coffee,
Chat, is that what I had the other day, chat? You think?
the amount of caffeine could easily kill you. But just a few teaspoons
right?
of caffeine powder can be even more dangerous. You see, a single teaspoon of caffeine powder is equivalent to about 28 cups of coffee.
It doesn't matter.
In 2019, a man accidentally mixed in too much of this powder in his drink. It was the equivalent to 200 cups of coffee.
Chat, I thought the LD50 for caffeine is like fucking like 550, something like that, no?
This led to his heart beating extremely fast. He started foaming at the mouth before eventually dying. Shootout. You might think hiding behind a car door will save you, but these are made of thin metal and plastic, which a bullet can easily pass through. Instead, you should crouch behind the front
block.
wheels. This is because the rims are made of thick metal, and between them is the engine block, which is a huge chunk of iron. Even if the bullet made it through the wheel, the engine would stop it in its tracks, leaving you unharmed.
Yeah, man, I mean, don't be like that. Don't be like that.
Have you ever wondered why clothes get darker when they're wet? I mean, water isn't dark, so why does it make clothes darker?
Yeah.
Well, the reason we can
The
see
density.
fabric in the first place is because it reflects light. But when water is poured onto fabric, it becomes more translucent, and the gaps between the fibers shrink. This causes the fabric to absorb more light instead of reflecting it. And this decrease in light reflection is why it looks darker when it's wet.
Ah, so why can we see
fella,
titties through it
it
then?
is me.
Because I've seen those
Please
before.
tell me girlfriend she smells. xQcOW.
When you write with a ballpoint pen, a tiny ball at the tip begins to roll. Each time it
Hippo
rotates, a part of the ball goes back inside the barrel of the pen. Inside, the ball picks up ink that is stored in a cartridge right above the opening. This ink is designed to flow smoothly around the ball, allowing for even distribution onto paper. Have you ever wondered why February only has 28 days? Well, the reason for this is actually pretty ridiculous. You see, the calendar used to have 10 months instead of 12, but this left an awkward gap in the winter, and no one really knew what day it was. So King Numa added January and February, but there was a problem. The Romans were very afraid of even numbers, but in order for this new calendar to work, one of the months had to contain 28 days. So they chose February and hosted their darker rituals during this unlucky month.
What?
When you shoot a bullet at a riot shield, you might think it would block the projectile, but that's not actually the case. Most riot shields are made of a lightweight plastic, designed to protect against thrown objects like rocks and bottles, not bullets. When a bullet strikes a standard riot shield, it can easily penetrate or shatter the shield, putting the person behind.
I rock like pebble, jump through and shit. You hear this beat? Coming like heavy metal.
No. There are riot shields that block it. There are a bunch.
Business, bro.
That is a standard riot shield.
Raw.
SWAT shields and breach shields, whatever, and all those shields are not the same thing.
When a honeybee stings a human, they actually get stuck for a while and can't leave. And this is because their stinger is barbed, which means it can't retract once it's lodged into something. But once the bee finally pulls away, its insides get ripped out because the stinger stays in the skin. This leaves the bee without some of its internal organs, resulting in its death. When a bee collects nectar from plants, they swallow it and store it in a special stomach. While in their stomach, enzymes start to break down the nectar. And when the bee arrives back in the hive, they vomit this nectar into another bee's mouth. And that bee will throw it up into another bee's mouth until the water content lowers. This process gives the nectar a gooey consistency, which eventually turns it into honey. Have you ever wondered why it seems
It's like the
impossible
longest
to
cum
swat
in
a
history.
fly? Well, believe it or not, it's actually because of their eyes. You see, flies have over 3,000 individual lenses on each of their eyes, and this allows them to process images much faster than we do, which makes our actions appear in slow motion to them. So by the time you go to swat the fly, it's already detected your motion and moved.